All right, and welcome into the next edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. In today's episode, we will be looking back at the week that was in college and professional football for week 2 in the NFL, week 3 in college. I am sitting here in the studio with Spike and Token Tony. And one-word initial thought on week 2 of the NFL. Onomatopoeia, I love it.
Yeah, the Patriots kind of laid an egg. Did we check the mics, by the way? Probably should have done that before we hit record, but whatever.
Yeah,
Too late now.
All mics are good.
All right.
Yeah,
seems legit.
Yeah.
Oh, damn, his is still on.
Pat's laid an egg.
Rat turds.
Broncos didn't do what they were supposed to do. Even the San Diego or fucking the
Lax.
The LA Clippers let Buffalo back in the third quarter somehow. That game shouldn't have been that close. It was just a lot of weird shit that happened this week. And New Orleans, Cleveland. Oh my God, how that should have been the first thing I mentioned.
Must be that talent gap. Token, how about the week that was in college football? A lot of great games. I know you had your eye on a few of them, and you made a little money this weekend.
Yes, I did. Pretty much went busto on just the Eastern Michigan pick, and everything else was pretty solid. So
nice. Well, we are presented by 12-Ounce Sports Radio. We are presented by VGK Pop Sockets and ChaiPoker.com. You can catch us every Monday night, which you are right now, on 12-Ounce Sports Radio at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can also catch us every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We are a weekend special at the Vegas Squares. We are on... No, we're not on Fridays. We're on Saturdays and Sundays.
How did we manage that?
So, JK, not on Fridays. So just Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So we are still kind of a weekend special. Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern, right before college football. You can catch us on Sundays wherever we can get fit in. We're usually around 10:30 in the morning. I know they have a busy schedule, but they replay our NFL pick segment. And also on Mondays, like I said, at 8 p.m. Eastern. So you get us for 3 straight days. So
that's strong.
Depending on how you feel, that's either that's the time you take away from electronics and turn your radios off. But nevertheless, we've got a couple minutes here before the NFL game starts Monday night. That's Seahawks and Bears. We talked about it on our picks show. I believe you're on the Bears, Token.
Strongly on the Bears, yes.
And I know I'm on the Seahawks. I can't remember where Spike lay.
I am also on the Bears.
Okay, so the Seahawks are virtually a lock at this point tomorrow or today. You have any plans to change your picks after what we did last week? I know that you are, based on the scoring system that Spike developed with our picks, you are sitting at a ripe 0 points, Token.
Hey, it could be worse. I don't know. I felt like I had some pretty big good picks today. I think my worst one was probably the Giants tonight. But
that was your worst one? You should have done better than 0 points if that was your worst one. They should have had that game.
Yeah, they should have, and they should have actually probably lost worse than what it was. So
I will say my worst one was the Cardinals. Usually, again, it's just a trendy theory thing, but usually nabbing the underdog in the biggest spread works more often than not. Today, I think yesterday. What are we pretending this day is?
Today is today.
This weekend.
The week 2 game. How about that?
The week 2 game, it felt like they were out after like 3 snaps. So that one did not go well for me. But is anybody interested in changing their pick for Seahawks Bears?
No, I'm still good. Well, and this is kind of a question, so just so the listeners are semi-aware of what we're doing without going into too much detail. We're doing one pick on every game this week that's played on Sunday or Monday, so we're not going to bother with the Thursday night games. Every game is worth a point if you get it right. You lose a point if you get it wrong. For every week, you have to pick at least one game against the spread, at least one money line, at least one total. So we have to make a play all 3 ways for one of these games. So. Like this week, I had the over in the Cleveland and New Orleans game, which was obviously a disaster. But
that whole game was a disaster.
Yeah, so I decided to do that instead of trying to figure out if New Orleans -9 was a good enough play.
We also have a lock of the week.
Yeah, we also have a lock of the week, which is worth +3 or -3 on how it goes. We also have a blind bet which is what I like to say, you put a gun to my head if I have to make a pick. That one's worth 2 points if you get it right. You don't lose anything for getting it wrong. So right now, Token's lock of the week is Chicago minus 3.5.
Oh,
so if
he has a chance for 3 points.
So if we are allowing people to change their lock of the week, that I think is a little sketchy. I mean, if you're that sure about it, why are you making it the lock of the week? And then if you're going to go back and change it,
fair enough. I didn't realize that was his lock of the week. I forgot.
So if either of us are going to change it, Aaron, it should be either you or I.
Yes. Give me Chicago minus 6.5 even.
I'll let him do that.
Yeah, if you want. I'm more than happy to let you do that. Because if you brick this, you go to last place.
I'll tell you what, since there's no true commissioner on this active thing, we do have a statistician and a bookkeeper, but I'll allow, as one of the acting 3 commissioners, I'll allow him to move that line to 6.5 and give him 5 points for it.
Oh.
5 or minus 5?
No, 5 or minus 3.
Yeah, because you're already locked in at the minus 3, and
Okay.
But if you don't hit the 6.5, you minus 3. Or 5? Was it 5.5 or 6.5?
6.5.
6.5.
He said 6.5.
Okay, I just want to.
So 5 points if he gets it right, 3 if he gets it wrong. Chicago minus 6.5. I'll give you that.
I'll take it.
All right,
Lock it.
Open it up, edit, and save.
Book it.
All right, so I'm on the Seahawks with the hook, field goal and a hook. Spike's got the Bears 3 and a hook, and Token Tony has just moved his line into the Sweetheart. What do they call it? Sweetheart against the spread?
Yeah, why not?
I know that's the Sweetheart teaser, but this isn't a teaser; it's just one pick. So the Sweetheart against the spread 6.5. He's going for the big 5-pointer to tie me. I know I have 5 points. He has currently 0. Spike, you are currently in the dumpster.
Yeah.
With negative 2?
Negative 2 because my lock of the week was Denver minus 6, which obviously fucked me getting the minus 3 points there, and then. Just regular week deficiencies, taking New England, taking the Skins, taking Houston minus 2, the under in Detroit, San Francisco, so had a bunch of misses. I'm hoping the Chicago can pull it out because I'm still not convinced about Seattle's offense, but I guess we're going to see what happens.
Yeah, and let's get into the games at this point that were already played. Speaking of Chicago, we'll stay in the NFC North, and I would just like to preface this game by saying, although I wear them to work, I fucking hate ties.
Yes, I currently have a noose on my neck, a.k.a. Lions tie.
Yeah, we'll get into the Lions tie. We're not talking about that fucking game.
Yeah.
22 points in the fourth quarter to get that back into the game. Kirk Cousins was signed in the offseason for $84 million guaranteed. That's public knowledge. We know that. We obviously know that the window for the Minnesota Vikings to win a Super Bowl is right now. But I got to believe Kirk Cousins was also signed to win these games, the Aaron Rodgers and the Packers games.
Yeah.
And I mean, a tie's not bad, but it's not winning.
Well, and to be fair, he wasn't able to do much in the first half. When he finally started stepping it up in the fourth quarter and actually putting points on the board, he certainly looked a lot better. I think a lot of this, though, you got to blame the Minnesota defense. So even though Cousins is supposed to win these kinds of games, on the road against a division opponent is always tough. But Aaron Rodgers was on one leg, and I did not see that Minnesota defense getting after him the way they should have to put the pressure on him, to hit him, to get him on his ass, and to really shake him up, because you can't beat Green Bay by not hitting Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and that's fair, but I have to imagine that the refs were probably taking extra special note of this game with all these new, hitting the quarterback too hard, laying your body weight on him, because those are essentially the Aaron Rodgers rules from the Minnesota game last year. So not to say that the Vikings shouldn't have taken chances at Aaron Rodgers, but I feel like maybe they subconsciously or mentally started coming up short when attacking the quarterback in this game.
Yeah, I would kind of agree. And going back to that, what's your guys' thoughts on the hit against Cousins? That was the controversial hit that gave them a penalty as well as a chance to get back into the game.
I didn't see a problem with it under what their new rules are. I'm taking the rules out of the play. I'm already going to side with the fact that, dude, it's football, man the fuck up, play some football. Mm-hmm. But under the guidelines that they are now instilling, I mean, it is what it is. You're going to be on all these teams. 32 teams throughout the year are going to be on both sides of these calls.
Yes.
Defensive linemen are going to, throw their arms up, hoot and holler. How did I do this, that, and the other? And more often than right, they have a beef. But under these new rules that they're creating, which the players are the ones who want, because they want the safety, they want the futures, they want the life after football, the CTE, dilemmas, etc. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You're going to be on both sides of this. You're going to have times where you throw your hands up in the air and say, "I give up. I don't know what the fuck to do," and then you're going to have times where it benefits you. I mean, Chicago and Green Bay last week. The Clay Matthews hit on Trubisky, same thing. And now, it's going to be every week. The situations are going to be hopefully not magnified where they dictate an outcome of a game. Yes, this allowed the Vikings to get back in it, but there was a time last week where the Bears should have put it away on Sunday night because of one of those late hits by Clay Matthews. They weren't able to because they're just not that talented, and they went into prevent offense last week. But there's going to be, I just hope that they don't dictate a lot of these seasons, and I'm afraid they might.
Yeah. Another thing to take away from this game is missed opportunities between, I would say, mainly the Minnesota kicker, Carlson. But
yeah, I don't think he'll be cut, but he's definitely on a short leash.
Yeah. And
one thing I saw with this, which made me laugh, was when I was checking through my fantasy scores on Yahoo and everything, and you have your score of your player, and then you have the score of the actual game that they played, and I was looking, I had Michael Thomas, he had a win versus the Browns, and I had DeAndre Hopkins, he had loss versus the Titans, and I had Devontae Adams, and what made me laugh is because it said UN 29-29, and it just made me laugh because it was like, I only could take that as undecided, and that's what I don't like, the fact that these games are officially undecided. Why we went back to a 10-minute OT, it just baffles me.
Yeah, I think that had something to do, and I don't have the stat in front of me, but if you looked at the record of teams in the week following when they had to play an overtime game, they had a winning percentage of something like 30 or 35%. So I think trying to get a shorter overtime.
Pittsburgh to that, and Cleveland.
Yeah. So I think part of it was shortening the overtime to give the players a little more time to rest and recuperate and not put as much strain on the
5 game minutes.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, ties in this league are just stupid. I mean, there's got to be a way to figure out to win a game in this league, especially because there are so few games played in this league that ties have that much more of an impact on records, on playoff seedings, and everything else. And you shouldn't be able to get into the playoffs because of a tie helping you as opposed to a loss hurting you. Like, either win the game or lose the game. If you tie and backdoor your way into the playoffs because of that half-game advantage, that just... I'm with you. I can't stand the tie in the NFL.
Hey, I think I do something about it. Two in 1 week, and I know it's prisoner of the moment kind of thing, but I feel like we're getting them. And remember we talked about Carolina that one year when they were 7-8-1. That tie ended up getting them into the postseason.
Yep.
They shouldn't be rewarded for something like that.
Yeah.
So a game, and Spike will correct me if I'm wrong on this. I'll just go over each game I believe I was on the Titans and you two were on the Texans.
I believe so, yes.
I was also high on the Titans because I thought Mariota was going to play. Somehow Gabbert was able to beat this Houston team that I know you're very high on.
And I should have also pointed out that you said Tennessee -2, but only if Marcus Mariota plays. Or Tennessee +2, but only if Mariota plays.
Yeah.
And if not,
Am I still getting that point?
Then you would have switched to Houston. But I left it as Tennessee because since I didn't actually watch the game, I didn't know if Mariota had been in.
I didn't either.
So I wasn't sure. So I gave you the point just based on the fact that you said Tennessee +2, and then when they ended up winning, I said, fuck it, must have been Mariota.
Is that like in poker when the floor has to come over and he says, well, I said call, but then I didn't really, and it's like, well, the first words that came out were call, so you get the point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Circle gets the square. But okay, so yes, I'll take the point. I mean, I'm not going to shy away from that. It's hard to win games in the NFL betting against the spread. But this is very alarming. I mean, Marcus Mariota did not play. And Texans, I understand that the game was 3 points, but from what I watched, because I started to watch it at the end, once I figured out, I was like, oh, Titans scored on a fake punt. That was pretty cool. So I flipped over and watched a little bit. You got Deshaun Watson, who had 310 and 2 touchdowns, and the Texans defense didn't play terrible. Offensively, Houston dominated this game. It's just the red zone and their ability to finish drives was just not happening.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't existent. And
Derrick Henry has 55 yards on the ground.
Yeah, that can't happen if you're Houston trying to win games and move the ball along. You gotta punch it through the pylons and put up those touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, it's just their running game wasn't able to get going. They had 148 yards, but it just didn't seem like they were eligible to create big drives and big drives. I mean, look at the offensive stats. Lamar Miller, 68 yards, Blue 36. That's 100 yards right there. Fuller 113, Hopkins 110. Deshaun 310 through the air. I mean, can they take a moral victory even though they're 0-2 and they're staring in the face of 3 teams above them at this point, saying that, okay, we can beat the teams in our division? Because, I mean, other than a fake punt, they technically won this game.
Yeah, but there's no technical victories in the NFL.
A tie by the Browns is.
Almost back-to-back ties, too.
Yeah.
This division, I think, with Jacksonville playing the way they are, with Indianapolis looking better, I guess, and Tennessee is a playoff team last year and looking all right this year. Houston's got to win games. They going 0-2, even keeping this one close, I don't think it's good enough. They got to win games, if not for anything other than Watson's confidence.
And yes, they're 0-2, like you said. Like obviously the stat sheets show. They lost to New England in a game that they got beat. They lost to Tennessee in a game where they probably look like the better team. In your head right now, quick thought: are they still the best team in the AFC South?
No.
You sure about that?
So, 2 comments on that. One, no, because I did see the way that Jacksonville played today. I think Jacksonville is a better and more complete team than Houston. And 2, I just watched the Seinfeld episode called The Voice where they were doing the hello. Yeah,
I remember that one.
Now that's stuck in my head. I literally just watched it for the first time 5 minutes before I left to come here.
All right, Panthers-Falcons. I know I was on the Falcons. I believe Spike was on the Falcons. And I believe Token Tony, you were on the Carolina Panthers.
That is correct.
I did not watch a single snap of this game, but judging by... I get score updates on the TV and on my phone all the time. Judging by this game, obviously it was high scoring. Obviously the over was good. But it seemed like the Falcons were in desperation mode and they never wanted to relinquish a lead. They just kept pounding on Carolina.
Yeah, that definitely happened second and early in the third, and they just never wanted to give it up, and they almost tried to.
Sorry.
You've just now been rickrolled.
But, Cam had a good game. The offense, played fine, but Carolina's defense giving up 31 points, that just seems very un-Panther-like at this point.
Yeah, I mean, this is a defense that should be playing. By the way, according to our score sheet, Aaron, you were not on either side. You were over on 44.5.
Oh, that's right. I banked the over. I bet Atlanta actually today. So
yeah, okay. So if you had it in real life, that's a different story.
In real life, I had the over in there, but if I had to make a pick on the side, I think I took Atlanta.
Yeah. So
I think I took both, and then I had to make a pick. If I'm correct.
Yes, that is correct actually, because you did that on a couple of games last week. But whatever. So anyway, the point is. I was on Atlanta this game. Carolina's defense did not look like Carolina's defense. And this is probably a game that Carolina is going to want back when it comes to the end of the season when the playoff picture's announced, because I don't know what Carolina is right now, but they should be better than this.
Yeah, I mean, you go from first week giving up 8 to the second week giving up 31. It's like, yeah, what is your What is your MO at this point? I'll tell you what I would like back at this point is in my big money fantasy league. After week 1, I said Matt Ryan's going to the bench, and I started Alex Smith. I'd like to have that back, please. Yeah, that wasn't great. Chargers, Bills. Not a lot to say in this game. Chargers got out to a 28-0 lead very, very quickly, and I think the only thing really noteworthy from this game is that Vontae Davis decided, I believe, at some point during getting slaughtered in the first half, he's like, "Fuck this, I quit," and he legitimately retired in the first half of this game. I mean, I'm not kidding. He legitimately said, "I am done." Hung up the cleats, hung up the jersey, and his teammates weren't too happy about that.
I mean, I can't blame them. I mean, but I can't blame him for doing it to Buffalo too. I mean, Buffalo's pretty stinky, so.
Well, he's part of that pretty stinky, though. So,
Yeah.
I mean, 10 years in the league, I guess he really finally just decided,
fuck it.
yeah, fuck this noise.
And, I mean, speaking of guys that look like they wanted to retire, I mean, did you see Eli Manning's face after that big hit and when he was...
Yeah, the big meme that's going around right now.
Yeah, that's an impressive one.
Yeah, exactly. So, although, Melvin Gordon with 3 touchdowns obviously had a big game as well. Chargers needed this one. God forbid can anybody fall to the Bills? I know that, I talk about the NFL and the talent. We've used the words talent gap this year. That might be the hashtag of the Vegas Squares 2018 NFL season, but they might be worse than some Browns teams I've seen.
Oof.
I say that's a legit point. I mean, I definitely wouldn't throw it out of the picture. I mean, some of the Browns teams were pretty damn bad, but this Buffalo team seems like it would almost do better at hockey than football.
It's fair. Speaking of the Browns, they let another one get away, and I know that we don't talk a lot of kickers on here, but is Zane Gonzalez looking for a job next week? This is 2 games. It's 2 games they probably had. They could be 2-0 right now, and I mean, I know if you listen to previous podcasts, I said that there's a potential chance they could be 5-2 or 4-3 going into that Week 8 Pittsburgh Steelers game. Not if they let Zane Gonzalez keep kicking the ball, because they should theoretically be at worst right now 1-0-1. They should be 2-0, but they should be 1-0-1 at this point. They controlled a Saints team that had a lot of trouble doing everything today.
Yes, I think this one's pretty much on the hands of the kicker, as well as the defense as not controlling New England how they were in the beginning of the game.
I mean, I think this is a two-way testament here. Is Cleveland still has a chance? I mean, that division. You got Cincinnati 2-0, Pittsburgh is same as the Browns. And Baltimore's 1-1. They're still not technically out of it, but I think 2 things is Cleveland can still contend if they get their kicking woes fixed, and New Orleans might be in for a longer season than we anticipated.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody saw this coming with New Orleans. I thought their defense was improved the last couple of years, so I don't know where they are now.
The defense still had a pretty decent game.
Decent game, but still not great. Still nothing that I would want on my team.
Wasn't as bad as last week.
I think they only gave up 1 touchdown.
Yeah, but it's a touchdown to the Browns, and that's not something that should ever happen.
That's gonna happen.
But they didn't give up the extra point.
It's true, they didn't.
Yeah, I don't know. This is the AFC North right now. I think is just kind of a clusterfuck. It's a division that you should be able to win. If you're
who?
If you're anybody but Cleveland at this point, because I think Cincinnati might have a legitimate shot, because apparently I can never handicap a Cincinnati game properly.
I wouldn't even consider Cleveland out of the picture.
That's what I'm saying. At 0-1-1, I mean they're
game and a half back.
They're theoretically a game and a half back at this point. So.
Yeah, and then obviously Baltimore's Baltimore and Pittsburgh used to be Pittsburgh, so there's opportunities for all 4. I guess all 4 teams, because, like you said, Cleveland hasn't looked that bad in any of the games that they've played. So
and the Bengals can Bengals. Sure.
Yeah, the Bengals do Bengal.
I mean, If you're Cleveland, who do you think you're going to pick up as kicker if you release him? I mean, I know Dan Bailey's.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole. Does it matter? I mean, kickers are kickers. If you can make it, once you can't make it anymore, they find the next guy.
Yeah.
But yes, Dan Bailey is on the market.
Blair Walsh.
But theoretically, you could say Dan
Novak.
Bailey. Dan Bailey has a trait to him. He's the second most accurate kicker in NFL history. Blair Walsh has a trait to him that, well, while Cleveland might find that tantalizing, most people don't find the fact that he bricks extra point-sized field goals in very big games. So I can't imagine that Blair Walsh will be. They may kick the tires on Dan Bailey, or they may Browns being Browns and just leave Zane Gonzalez in the role. You talked about the Steelers. They are now 0-1-1 as well. And although they lost by 5, I felt like they got dominated in this game.
Oh, yeah. Mahomes with 6 touchdowns. You have to feel like Pittsburgh's defense was just garbage today.
Yeah, and their offense really just, theoretically, for the exception of the second quarter, they just could not keep up with this. And, we talked about it. The Steelers, I believe, were the second largest favorite to win their division this year behind New England. And they sit in the dumpster right now. They sit with the Browns. I don't think that they imagine this at the start of the season. Is Le'Veon Bell that much to this team? Maybe I know the problem is now they can't do anything. He's sitting there with a $14 million tag. Neither side can make any negotiation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure Pittsburgh wants it to happen.
Well, duh.
But do you think they'll actually pull the trigger?
Well, the question I have is, will they write it up? I don't know how this works. Again, I don't know the negotiations. But can they write up a promise agreement says, look, get the fuck back here. If you get back here and you can help us get out of this dumpster, we'll give you the $18 million over 5, $18 million per 5 years. Is there any kind of promise ring agreement on paper? Is there a promise ring between Pittsburgh and Le'Veon Bell?
We've always known that teams work out backdoor deals or backroom deals with players and players' agents all the time.
Especially in free agency.
Yeah, it happens constantly. So we know that even though it's not supposed to be happening, we know negotiations are happening. That's just the nature of the beast of the NFL.
These carrier pigeons still?
Hopefully. That would be great.
$20 million over 5.
So I just... I wouldn't surprise me in the least if there are ongoing negotiations and that as soon as he's eligible to return, he will return.
Well, he's eligible now. All he has to do is sign the tender.
I thought he had to sit out X number of games.
No. He can come back at any point.
I'm thinking of the...
But I'm thinking they pick up the phone here, if they haven't already, and start to work out one of these backdoor deals you keep talking about.
I
said backdoor a lot on this show already.
Yeah, well, if he comes back from his deal based on the franchise tag, he would only cut out of the games that he missed. But
right, he's already lost that money. He'd be prorated for the 14 games that he has left. But that's not what we're talking about. They can't change that number on the tag. But what he's talking about is they can negotiate something to say, hey, look, no matter what happens with this season, we will give you I think he's looking for $18 to $20 million per year.
Since he's so valuable to the team, I think he honestly probably deserves it.
And that's not a disrespect to James Conner, who didn't really have a good game. But my point being is that what he does opens up so much of that offense as a security blanket, as the ability to run.
As well as receive screen passes as well as slot passes. So
yeah, the defense is having a hard time, but I think defenses as a whole in the NFL have all gotten slightly worse. Just the rules are going to do that to you. I think Shazier and Bell just mean a lot to this team.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh's road doesn't get any easier. Next week they're in Tampa Bay, and we've seen what they've done the last couple of weeks.
Get into that next.
Then they are home against the Ravens, and the Ravens look all right. They are home against.
He just can't give the Ravens anything.
No,
the Ravens look. But you know what? All right is better than what you've given them in the last.
That's true. Then they're home against the Falcons. Falcons can put up points in a fucking heartbeat.
Yeah.
They're at Cincinnati, so who knows what Cincinnati can do.
Yeah.
And then they're home against the Browns.
Which was that showdown I thought was going to be a big thing.
Yeah.
It still may be, but it's looking a little less.
Yeah, so
looking a little more toilet bowl-y.
So their first, 8 games, there's a lot in there that could happen.
Big Ben's got to step up, but he had a good game today. So you talked about it. They play the Bucs next week. We talk about the Bucs, who beat the other team in Pennsylvania 27-21, and that game wasn't as close as the score indicated as well. Week 2, FitzMagic, the train keeps rolling.
You might be onto something, Aaron, about that. I mean,
I'm not ready. I'm not ready to crown his ass. I mean, we've seen this look before. Him have a 8 to 10 week stretch of solid performances, but right now, I think he's the better quarterback option in Tampa Bay.
Oh, by far. I mean, the way he's performed this first 2 weeks, as well as his previous experience, he's got a damn good football IQ. He looks good on the field and off the field.
Where'd he go to school?
Harvard.
What?
I didn't
Never heard that before.
I didn't keep track of the total, but I didn't hear too many. I had the Bucs game on. Did you guys catch any of this action?
No.
Dude, I didn't notice this. I don't know if, maybe they need to test him, but I never knew that Fitzpatrick had the mobility that he had. And I don't know, I've never seen this out of Fitzpatrick or really any other quarterback except Matt Stafford. That kid, well, no, he's not a kid, but Fitzpatrick can flick the ball like I've never seen anybody else do. Better than Aaron Rodgers. And I know that's a lofty statement.
Wow.
Aaron Rodgers can flick a ball 60 yards like it's no big deal.
Wow.
But Fitzpatrick, anywhere, he was sidearming it. He was like over his head. That first play to Deshaun Jackson, he looked like he was just playing catch in the park. It was the weirdest thing. It just, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to jump too soon again because we've seen this movie before. But FitzMagic looks like he has control of this team, and a lot of the guys who were big Jameis Winston guys really seem to be gravitating towards Ryan Fitzpatrick right now. And yes, W's do that.
Yeah. And for me, it's not about the performance on the field. It's not even about the leadership and the intangibles, kind of leading this team and stepping in for Jameis Winston, who is or should be the face of the franchise, depending on who you ask. It is his fashion sense when he gives the press conferences, because he looks like Conor McGregor's drunk brothers. Like, it is ridiculous. He's Mr. Hide Your Girl, coming out there with the too many buttons unbuttoned at the top of his jacket, and the chains, and the aviator glasses. Like, the whole thing was just, it was a lot.
It was a Deshaun Jackson inspired creation.
Yes. Yes.
Which is the one who put that on him before he went to the press conference.
It was pretty boss looking.
It was NBA pre-dress code press conference.
I thought it was great for Fitzpatrick to play along, because that's not him at all. That was all Deshaun Jackson. And if you saw on the side, I have a buddy who works for Tampa Media who took a picture of that. And on the side, Deshaun Jackson's just sitting there going, just like every question, he looked like a little kid. He was laughing his ass off.
The only thing that would have made it more impressive if Fitzpatrick had a gold tooth.
Yeah, it could have made it impressive, yeah. Speaking from the Eagles side of this, the only thing really to take away from it is Carson Wentz is basically on track to start next week against the Colts. So at 1-1 for Philadelphia, I really believe Nick Foles did exactly what he was set out there to do. Play 500 football, keep him from being 0-2, because 0-2, we all know that statistically it's very hard to make the playoffs, especially in a division they have in the NFC East. So theoretically, if Wentz starts next week, Nick Foles really did fine, and I guess the Eagles would probably be excited or happy for the fact that they held on to him after the Super Bowl.
Yes. As of last I heard, he's expected to start week 3, so.
That's what I just said.
Good talk.
That's literally what I just said.
If it makes you feel any better, I don't pay attention to him either, so it's all right.
Yeah, you guys just look at the bullet points, wait till I jabber, and then go on and
talk about the same shit.
Okay. Well, speaking of the Colts, how about we segue? And the boy Andrew Luck, Captain Andrew Luck. Have you seen his Twitter account?
No.
Check it out on Twitter, Captain Andrew Luck. I don't know I don't know the handle, but it's fantastic. It's somebody who has taken the role of Andrew Luck as it looks like a Civil War general, and basically summarizes the games as letters back to his mother.
Oh no!
And it's like, Mother, I took on the Indians today. We were victorious. I'll write more soon. Sincerely, Andrew. It's great. You should look it up. But nevertheless, 21-9. Neither team looked flashy or showy in this game. Luck threw 2 TDs. He also had 2 picks. But the Colts got the win. And in the AFC South, that's what you need right now is victories against teams you should beat. And I know I had the Colts. I can't remember what side you guys were on. I know you were on the Skins.
Yeah,
I was on the Colts.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the Skins. Also, I took the Redskins. Actually, Token, you had the over in this game. This was your total for this anyway.
Okay.
Again, off of our sheet. If you did other action, whatever.
You have the over in this?
Yeah, he had over 48.
I don't think 29 was the over.
Yeah, and Washington -5. No, like I said, I knew the X factor was going to be Peterson. I liked what I saw out of Alex Smith in Week 1. I'm still not convinced that Andrew Luck is 100% healthy. Plus, I always like betting on the Redskins because they are the source of the biggest fight I've ever had with my wife. So that's always fun.
Pause. Do tell.
No, it was when she was studying for the bar exams.
Is it the name and the logo?
So yeah, it was, and her argument, just to really keep it like as quick as possible, her argument was this name of the Redskins is inherently racist, and my argument was we are white, we are not Native American, we shouldn't tell Native Americans what is or isn't offensive to them. And then it was just like 3 days worth of fighting.
That's 100% fair. I don't know if I've ever looked at any polls or numbers to see how they feel, but the small sample size of Native Americans that I know really don't give a shit.
The only poll that exists is, first of all, questionable in how it was put together and whether or not it was, because they just basically said, are you Native American? They didn't do any kind of follow-up, or they didn't just pick Native Americans to ask the question to. So we don't know if that sample...
So like Elizabeth Warren got the vote?
Yeah, exactly.
Or which tribe is offended
right,
most,
and
or
so
whatever.
that kind of thing. But from the people that they asked where they said, yes, I am Native American, that identified that way, it was something like 89% said they liked the name Redskins. Like, there are examples of high schools on Native American reservations changing their football name to the Redskins.
Wow.
So
I did not know that.
yeah, we know that these kinds of things happen, and obviously there are people that are going to be offended no matter what, and there are vocal people out there that are being offended. So, this is the kind of thing. But my inherent thought is, aside from the arguments that I've made, and besides from the numbers that I've looked at, Roger Goodell thinks the name should be changed, and Roger Goodell is wrong about everything. So if Roger Goodell wants the name to be changed, the name should be kept the same.
They should have a sports book that just opens up like Roger Goodell prop bets, and you can just fade them. Yeah, exactly. So that's a whole other debate for a different format of show.
Yeah, no, we are very much not going into that.
Yeah. Let's move on and talk about this one. This is my egg on my face game. It's just a trend I've noticed. Biggest spread of the week, usually take the dog. Well, the dog decided to not get off the bus today. So 34-0, Rams look good.
Yeah, this was a nice, complete game from LA, which I can't remember the last time we saw a game this good out of LA in all three phases of the game. Obviously, the offense was moving. Defense gave up nothing. Of course, if you're going against Sam Bradford, that's not exactly difficult. And I liked everything about the way that they played football today. This was a great game. I actually like Arizona quite a bit. Not this season, but they're sort of my West Coast NFC team since I've moved to Las Vegas. So I wish them well, but I know this season's going to be a disaster. And I think you put up a poll, who is most likely to get the number one pick in the draft based on worst record, whether it be Buffalo or Arizona. I think I was the first and maybe thus far only person to vote Arizona.
Oh, I thought you were going to say to vote. I'm like, no, it has votes on it.
Yeah, no, I think I'm the only one voting Arizona right now.
A stat that jumped out at me, and this should be telling to their coaching staff, when your quarterback goes 17 of 27 for 90 yards.
Oh, I didn't.
An average of 3.3 yards per pass. That hurts my heart, man. We knew Rosen was never going to touch this game. I will tell you what, though. In none of my fantasy drafts, I had the first three picks. I did have the fourth pick in one of my drafts. Well, actually, two of them, including this. No, you had the fourth pick in this one. So only one of my drafts. I am very glad. I mean, whoever got Todd Gurley obviously is super excited. But the next two picks were more than likely in everybody's fantasy draft, David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell.
Yep.
They both have to be feeling very terrible, especially the Bell owners. But they both have to be feeling like dog shit after 2 weeks because David Johnson, I don't think, has collectively 100 yards in 2 weeks at this point. And he's just on a very bad team that's passing early.
Yeah, I know for those big money leagues that have multiple players, I know most of them Bell probably went second or third, and everybody's shooting themselves in the foot for taking Bell or Johnson in that spot.
Right. I mean, at least Johnson's on the field. This team is just very bad.
Yeah.
Leading receiver is Fitzgerald with 28 yards, and I think he left the game in the first half. Bright spot, if Rosen becomes the starter, is he does like Christian Kirk, who did have 7 targets. He only had 4 catches, but he had 7 targets. That's a guy to look out for. You're talking about future of the Cardinals. That's a guy to look out for, Rosen to Kirk. So, I mean, you're trying to find bright spots in this. The Rams are firing all cylinders. We don't need to talk about that. I'm trying to find a bright spot in Arizona, except for the sun. Lions, take it away there, Token.
I've got my noose on. I wanted to borrow Spike's remote in this game watching it.
I was about to say, I didn't watch this game. I mean, I took Big Money Matt Mooring's advice and said, let's just not watch this one. So,
I mean, if you liked high-scoring games, it was all right. I mean, the overhit. But, I mean, the Lions tried to come back in this. I was able to grab the Lions in-game at plus 7.5. So, I mean, at least I was on one good side about that. But
yeah, I think I was on the 6, and I think you guys both took the Niners.
I took the Niners minus the 6, yeah.
I took under. I didn't. Yeah, I wasn't completely confident in these offenses to be able to score points.
They had to be less confident in their defense.
Yeah, I guess I probably should have. So, yeah,
shit. No, the Lions' defense, the 49ers could have put the under or put the over up by themselves, like the Jets almost did last week.
Well, in this game, Blunt gets ejected.
Shocker.
Yeah. But, I mean,
if of all the things to talk about this game, that's what you came away with, then yeah, we should move on. Raiders Broncos, McManus on a game-winning field goal. I didn't watch this game, but I know you did. And your thoughts and takeaways?
Yeah, I actually only caught the very end of it because it was
more than I caught.
Yeah, just because it was on the same time as the Patriots game when I was actually playing poker on the Strip, waiting for the Golden Knights preseason game to start. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of, divided attention everywhere. I took Denver -6, thinking that Denver looked that much more improved and that Oakland was kind of not going in the right direction. Game was close. I mean, obviously, all day it comes down to a last-second field goal.
The Raiders led like 19-0 at some point, so 19-7 or something like that.
It was it 19-7? Yeah,
19-7.
I was going to say, I don't think it ever got to more than 2 scores, so 19-7 makes sense. It was just one of those games where, I don't know, I had a good feeling about Case Keenum and Denver, and they pulled it out, just not as well as I needed them to.
Yeah, it turns out that I guess the Broncos blocked an extra point at the end of the first half, which gave Oakland a 12-0 halftime lead. I guess that turned out to be pretty big.
Yeah.
Let's see. Broncos start 2-0. It's hard to win there. And they got a good, them and the Chiefs are going to be, I guess, leaders of the division. It's still going to be a tough division. The Chargers are still in that, and the Raiders will look like they're not going to contend, but they're definitely going to maybe ruffle some feathers in that division. So, game of the week, Pats-Jags. Score was not as close as the game indicated. The Pats looked like they kind of got drug up and down the field. Do you want me to give you a minute to collect your thoughts and send this one to Token?
Just fucking go to Token.
All right.
Patriots should easily win next week against the Lions. We got the Lions next week.
Okay.
Using the Bill Belichick approach.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah.
Sorry. You have to go lower with it.
Oh, okay.
We didn't play very well. We let Blake Bortles, the GOAT, throw for 4 touchdowns and 377 yards, and we're on to Detroit. That's about it for him.
Yeah.
It just, like I said, I know we talked about this in the pick show. it looked like this is one of those games where a top-flight defense outperformed a offense that looked like it was shopping in the clearance aisle at Walmart. And that's not going to happen every week with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick because Tom Brady masks a lot of that. But the offensive line just could not give Brady enough time. And the dink and dunk offense, when you don't have time, is hard to run because all they have to do as a Jacksonville defense is sit at that 5-yard line and give up anything underneath and nothing over the top because they don't have time to go over the top. And it was good to see Chris Hogan get going, but he only had a couple catches, 2 touchdowns. But if the New England Patriots have to play the Jaguars at home again in the playoffs, it makes you a little nervous.
Yes and no. Truth be told, I think a lot of it, or maybe not a lot of it, but I think a chunk of it has to do with Brady's inability to play in heat.
Brady looked fine.
I don't know.
I think Brady looked fine.
His offensive line did him no favors.
Right. I think
he misses.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he misses Edelman. I think as the season goes on, the offensive line gets better. They gel together better. Edelman coming back is going to be huge if Gronkowski stays healthy. And New England has to play Jacksonville again in Jacksonville when it's not, 101 degrees at 60% humidity. Then I think New England can win the game or at least keep it more competitive than what they look today.
Yeah, Gronk 2 for 15 and 4 targets is not going to get it done. I mean, you've got to find ways, even when things aren't going right, to get him open or at least make him a decoy, a double-team decoy. Yes, I understand James White is a huge factor back outside, in the passing game, but he can't be your leading receiver. It's just things aren't going to go right when he's your leading receiver in both targets and yards.
Yeah.
I liked what I saw out of Sony Michel today, though.
Yeah. I obviously want to see more because we've seen way too many one-hit wonders in this league. But, yeah, I think he is a bright spot and something that can be developed and something that even my father can't argue with because he thinks that Bill Belichick is the worst GM in the history of the NFL. He legitimately thinks that Brady should have, double-digit Super Bowl victories, but because of the way Belichick mismanages the draft year in and year out, that Brady doesn't get the weapons and the help that he needs, and that he's left high and dry.
Sounds like a strong statement.
I can see that I can agree with him in some aspects. I think that when Brady takes a pay cut, it, in my opinion, should not be to pay Stephon Gilmore. So I can see where his theoretical mindset goes because he has paid a few guys that don't really provide, that much of a service for what they're getting paid. I mean, they were unwilling to pay Malcolm Butler, who I thought was just as good or if not maybe a little slightly better than a Stephon Gilmore. So, I mean, obviously Belichick sees more than I do. He's obviously a better evaluator than I will ever be, but I can see sometimes where your dad, the get off my lawn guy says,
Yeah, well, and
where he has his theories.
He also thinks that he's completely hamstrung by Kraft, who just won't spend money.
I don't buy that for a second.
Yeah, these are the conversations that I have every time the Patriots lose. So if I am suicidal during our next taping, it's just because I talked to my father that day.
Maybe when the Pats lose and he calls, new phone, who dis? I want you to take a look, just a quick, I want to take an evaluation and don't be prisoner of the moment and don't be a homer. But is New England the best team in the AFC right now?
No, and I want to say they should be, they are, and they should be, and that they'll be fine by the end of the season. But right now, right this moment, no.
I think they still are, but it's not close. I mean, it's not far apart. I think they beat this Jacksonville team more times out of not. You could talk about Kansas City; they can't play defense, and obviously Pittsburgh is what we've talked about them. But I think they're still the best team It's just not by the margin I think anybody gave them to start this season. I think people gave them that margin because, it's the Patriots. Somehow they just put this shit together like Legos, and it works. And it has. But this year I think it's going to be one of the harder challenges for Brady this season. So, what else do we have? We have one more game. We have the Giants-Cowboys. I can honestly say I really didn't watch this game. I had my chores and stuff and other things to do. But it's Giants-Cowboys. It's always going to be a good game. Close game. Zeke's touchdown was the decider. And I had the Giants. I know you had.
I had Dallas -3.
And Token had.
Dallas
-3.
So I was on the short end of the stick. So
yeah.
I was on the Eli Manning meme train. So
yeah, the I should have retired face.
But just overall a good week in football. I mean, any like I said, any other little thoughts going forward? It's the part of the season where people are still in it, but people are shocked by the way that seasons are starting. And like we talked about, a lot of these guys, like Baltimore. Baltimore starts the season with an easier schedule, where their schedule gets harder. Teams like Pittsburgh starts their season with what we thought was a harder schedule, which it turned out to be, and then their schedule gets easier. When New England has to get into AFC East play, we thought their schedule would get a lot easier. Looking at it now, it may get a little more difficult. Miami's a decent team who's always had the number of New England, so it's going to be interesting. So, well, with that, I don't really have any other NFL recap really to talk about in the week 2. Nothing really else going on. We go to week 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we appreciate you listening, and we will catch you on the next one. And for Spike, for Token Tony, for 12 Ounce Sports Radio, for VGK Pop Sockets, for ChaiPoker.com, I am Aaron. We appreciate you listening. We'll catch you on the next one.